What is up, everybody? Welcome back to another NBA Rundown brought to you courtesy of Run Pure Bets and Run Pure Sports. Please like the video, subscribe to the channel, and away we go. Today I'm joined by Travis Mangone and JSU. Travis, how you feeling today?
Yeah, pumped to be here. Pumped to get some NBA in. I really like this slate. It's like it's definitely an interesting one. I feel like we've had a lot of things that are up in the air. It feels like there's not as much of that today, and who knows? We might get some injury news that happens. But I looked at the slate last night just real quick before I went to sleep, and I was like, I think I like this one. So I was excited to kind of get on and talk with you guys and discuss it all because I think it's a good card. And already put a bet on the bet sheet that the line has already moved our way that we'll talk about when we get there. So if you're a Run Pure Bet subscriber and you got on that, that's good to see. If you're not a subscriber to the DFS or bet side, we have a great code going on. It's called Get Bets. You get the DFS side for a month for $80, and then you also get the bets for free for an entire month. And it's typically an extra $20 added on for the bets and the DFS combined, which is $100 altogether. Typically, if you just do the month of DFS, it's $80, and if you do the month of bets, it's $60. So you're getting a nice little discount there, and you're also getting that for free. So use that code GetBets, and let's get started because I'm excited for this card.
Yeah, and of course, with that package, you'll have access to the final countdown with JSU. How's it going, JSU? Caught a quick bit of your show yesterday. I was in and out though. But how did your lineups end up doing yesterday, and how are you feeling about today?
Yeah, they did pretty good. I had a really good core that actually was kind of figured out late once we got the Buddy Hield news. It's one of the reasons why in NBA DFS, you should always be kind of thinking about how you want to, play the day. Like, do you want to front load and take the risk that there's not any slate breaking news, or do you want to back load and leave a ton of spots or all the spots just in case there's news that just really changes the slate? And when I saw Buddy Hield was out, I was pretty happy that I backloaded because at that point I was like, De'Aaron Fox is a lock. I had a 2v2 that was the make or break for me shipping everything and, just cashing. But hey, made the wrong 2v2 and we just move on to the next day. But I had a really good night though. Like I had one FanDuel lineup, played it in a few contests and everything like that, but I only had one. And it was really close to I think I put up like 370. Wow. And it was pretty close to the top. I think the guy who won the $4 had 390. Wow. But he was up there in a few spots. But yeah, I felt like I had a good feel for the slate once we got that news, really good feel. And I think a lot of members profited. I know a lot of members used Big T's core, and me and Big T were kind of similar in how we felt with the slate. So, a lot of people that used our cores probably had a good night.
Yeah, and we were pretty happy with the Buddy Hield news here as far as the NBA rundown goes, because Hoop and I both love the Pelicans. We gave that out as our strongest play. Man, they made us.
Oh, can I say one other thing, Spread? One other thing. Speaking of Hoop and Big T,
yeah,
he gives the lock play on this show. He reiterates it on the Hardwood show. That his lock was the Pelicans. And then friggin' Big T goes on there and he says Washington, and I'm taking a money line. I don't even want the points. And he friggin' hits that. I mean, who runs better than Big T? I mean, I know, and he always has to try and one-up Hoop or Hoop. Like, Hoop comes in there, he's like, lock button Pelicans. And then, of course, Big T just says, lock button, give me the dog. I don't even need the points. Just give me the money line. Who runs better than Big T?
No, and it was a great spot. We had talked about it, and we didn't even pull the trigger on taking the points, but we said, hey, this is a fatigue spot for Utah. Washington plays them well. They had won in Washington, and for whatever reason, the combination of Russ and Beal, the athletic guards, Utah having problems slowing them down on the perimeter. So, hey, I love it, and that was just it was just so much fun for us as Run Pure members, both on the bet side and on the DFS side last night. So let's see if we can duplicate it today. It's going to be hard work, but I got faith in the team. So the first game, this is an early game because it's a reschedule from last night due to some poor events that happened in Minnesota. So they rescheduled the game for today. The Nets are 36-17. They head to Minnesota to take on the Timberwolves. Timberwolves catching 6, and this is a quite This is a huge injury report here. Aldridge out, Irving out, Harden out, Tyler Johnson out, Alize Johnson, I guess, is coming back. Karl Anthony Towns is out. D'Angelo Russell is probable. And I actually think the biggest news of this game is now that it makes tomorrow night's anticipated matchup against the Sixers a back-to-back for Brooklyn. I think that makes it a little tougher. This screams look ahead to me, but I don't trust Minnesota. I'm completely off this game, but you guys have a showdown slate for this one, right?
Yeah, there should be a showdown slate that you can play. I don't play all the showdown slates. I kind of wait till the playoffs. But is Cat in for this game? Like, I know yesterday was.
I see him out on Basketball Monster.
He is or isn't?
It says out on Basketball Monster as of right now.
Okay, yeah. The reason I ask is it was like his mom's anniversary of the death. So that was yesterday. They were doing a memorial or something. So I didn't know if he was going to play or not, and I haven't looked too deep into this game. Not really something I'm too concerned about DFS wise. The 6.5 does feel like a lot, right? Without Cat too, but they have D'Angelo Russell back, right? They got Anthony Edwards. So they do have guys that can put up some points. JSU is a huge D'Angelo Russell guy, and it's a D'Angelo Russell revenge game. JSU, that's why you're gonna look to make him your captain, right?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if I'm playing the showdown slate for this game, but if I was, I definitely think D'Angelo Russell would be a good captain. I'm sure Naz Reid is somewhat cheap if Cat's out, so Naz Reid would be interesting, right? Like, yeah, I mean, definitely the Minnesota side without Cat becomes a lot juicier with D-Russ and all those guys. I mean, Anthony Edwards, right? That's another guy. So, there's some good spots there, but that's not on the main slate. So I'm trying to focus on the 6 main slate games for DFS. So, I mean, that game's not on the slate. Mangone's probably the same as me. Mangone probably didn't even look towards that game when thinking about, like, games we were going to talk about.
I didn't realize they were playing at 4. I remember I looked and I was like, because the line wasn't up yet last night, and I was like, I thought they were going to be on this slate, so I was confused. And then when I woke up this morning, I kind of found out that game was at 4, and I was like, oh, that's weird. I didn't know that was the plan. So, but that does help them for the back-to-back and everything. I
think that's the idea there, right? Is it gets them out of town quicker.
Yeah, I'll probably just stay away from the game. I will say I thought the 6.5 made me feel like Cat was in, but you are right. You talked about it at the top spread. Like, Brooklyn is really banged up. They don't have a lot of bodies there for that game, so it is totally fair.
Isn't Kyrie out for this game too?
Yeah, Irving's out.
Yeah. So, this game is no Cat, no Kyrie. Oh boy.
Let me just do a quick, just general question on the showdown slate, and then we'll break down the main slate. If I was making a showdown slate, do I always put my highest salary guy as the captain, or is there a strategy?
So on DraftKings, the salary is different than on FanDuel. Like on FanDuel, it's a little different because on the showdown slates, you don't get extra salary for, putting a cheaper guy in your captain to being able to fit all the studs like on DraftKings. On FanDuel, you just play, who you think is going to be the MVP, I forget what they do, Star and Pro or something like that, right, Mangone?
Yeah, I actually like that about the FanDuel. I like that Pro and Star thing. I wish the salaries were a little different, but I do like that they give you those 3 options, unlike in the football. I hate the way that is formatted.
The football is the worst. The football is awful on FanDuel.
The only thing that's good about the FanDuel football is you can get guys like Juju or like an Antonio Brown. You can get those receivers like super low owned in the captain spot, and people don't understand like that. The receivers, yes, they can dud for 5 fantasy points, but they have higher ceilings than running back. So like you can get sometimes you get like Tyreek Hill in a spot where he's like 5% owned and he just shouldn't be, because everyone just plugs in Pat Mahomes and they plug in the other quarterback because if it's a primetime game, it's likely Kansas City against another good quarterback. And there's just a lot of good players and you can get a guy like that. That's the one thing I like about it. But on DraftKings spread, I think it depends on the game, right? Like, for instance, if James Harden was playing today, you would not fade him as the captain. You'd probably just jam him in. And even in the postseason, when you kind of get to that, you see guys with such condensed minutes. Like, people would make fun of Big T because Big T would have PJ Dozier in the playoffs in his, core. And PJ Dozier would literally get 0 fantasy points. But, he'd still be on the optimal because, the minutes are so condensed on these guys that, if you needed like LeBron, Anthony Davis, and Jokic, right? If they put up such massive scores that none of those other crappy players below them could get to those scores and you needed all three, well, you needed PJ Dozier because he was 1K, right? And there's a chance PJ Dozier could even play 8 minutes and get you like 6 fantasy points. And like, yes, that's not what you're asking for, but it was just part of the equation. So it really depends on the slate. Part of me thinks that this might be a better slate to kind of try and take some shots on guys that are volume shooters, like an D'Angelo Russell if the minutes limit's not there, or an Anthony Edwards, or even take a shot on a guy like a Naz Reid who might be too cheap so you can overall fill out your lineup completely. But it just depends because with so many guys being out, you might have such cheap salaries on so many options that it might just make sense to plug in one of the more expensive guys because you can just get whoever you want.
Like I just pulled up DraftKings Showdown real quick, and I just skimmed it. And, just from the salaries and stuff like that, with all these already studs out, Cat, James Harden, Irving, necessarily you might not need to take a super cheap guy and throw him in the captain spot or them, whatever you want to call it, but MVP. But, like, it's going to be lower owned because people are going to realize you don't need to do it. And if you think that a guy like Naz Reid is going to go out there and just stuff it down Brooklyn, because Brooklyn's terrible inside and they really struggle against bigs, then I think you just throw them in there anyways. You can get all the studs you want, and you're going to leave salary on the table most likely because I'm just building it. And if I click Naz Reid in my captain spot and then I put in the next 5 most expensive guys, I have $2,400 in salary. So that tells me no one's going to play Naz Reid because with all that money, they can go put Anthony Edwards in their captain spot. And from there, they can still play Kevin Durant. They can still play D. Russ. They can still play Ricky Rubio, who are some of the higher priced guys on Showdown. So if you build a lineup today, I think the way to get different is just with the MVP spot. Play a Naz Reid. Play someone a little cheaper, maybe even D-Russ, because Anthony Edwards is a little more expensive than him. But, do it that way and then try and get different with, a one-off, like Nick Claxton, who I think could be a really good one-off today with no LaMarcus Aldridge. So that's the way I would approach today's slate just from looking at it. The top guys are going to be so chalky in the captain spot because it's so easy.
Cool. Well, that's some great game theory there. So thanks, guys. And I might try my hand and at least throw in one lineup for the Showdown slate today. But let's jump into the 6-game slate that I know that you guys are more excited about and that you have all your eyes and all your attention focused on. The first game, the Clippers, 37-18, 32-23 against the spread, head to Indiana to take on the Pacers, 25-27, 21-31 against the spread. This line was -2 and all the way out to 3.5 right now. First game back from a road trip here for Indiana, although it was a short road trip. All they played was Orlando and Memphis. They won both those games. They've won 3 in a row, most recently a 7-point win in Memphis. The Clippers have won how many in a row now? 5 in a row, most recently a 7-point win in Detroit. So let's start with you, Travis. Who do you like in this game? We got the Clippers and the Pacers.
Yeah, I talked with you a little bit about this before the show, and I actually have this as my, bet of the day, right? If we get to the best bet segment, Jay, so you're not stealing mine. You can go against me if you'd like, and I'm happy to go against you here because I think you're wrong no matter what if you do like the other side. Give me the Clippers, right? I got them at -2. I got them at -2, and it's now -3.5. Line is moved, and I think this Clippers team I think they're playing, obviously, to kind of get ready for the playoffs. It sounds like all of the coach speak and everything. They're gearing up to get Rondo going. And the one thing I noticed, again, I kind of looked into this game because I don't think this Pacers team right now, I don't think that they're a team that I want to buy in on when it comes from a betting perspective. But DFS-wise, I want to be loading up on these games, right? The total of the Grizzlies and Pacers, I've been all over kind of jumping on stacking up against the Pacers a little bit. And Sunday specifically, I saw it again. I was like 227 totals where the Pacers Grizzlies opened, and it went to 235.5. And I was like, this is insane. That's a huge move on a game. And if you look, the Pacers, they're playing at a way faster pace. They're obviously not playing as well defensively, too, with Miles Turner not down there. And that's going to be good for offense, right? That's going to be good for DFS. And when you see a close spread, too, that also gets me excited because when it's a closer spread, I'm thinking that the game is going to stay a lot closer than some of these other games, right? Like, I don't want to stack the Thunder and the Jazz. Obviously, I know that Vegas is not going to be wrong completely. Sure, sometimes they're wrong. Big T is more right than Vegas nowadays, getting the money line picks on the Wizards. But Vegas is going to be more times right than wrong, and they do think this game is going to be close. Now, I do think it's going to be competitive, but I think ultimately the Clippers do win this game, and I think that the difference is going to be that this Clippers team is just way stronger with what they're doing. Like if you look at Rondo and you look at Nick Batum, in the 80, they played 67 minutes together so far. They're up plus 46 together on the court, which is insane. But that second unit is way better than people realize with him in there, because with Lou Williams, it was not the right fit anymore, right? And like you might look at Rondo in DFS and be like, oh, like look at his games. He has 2 really good games and that one bad one. Who knows what's going to happen? I actually like him in DFS a little bit if you need a cheap punt. I don't know how the slate is going to be constructed yet. We don't know what news is going to come in. But I think he's really interesting at 3.4K because he had 2 great games. And the one game that wasn't amazing was when Patrick Beverley was sitting, right? Or playing. And Patrick Beverley has sat all the other games. So they are going to need him. He is going to be important to this team. I also think a lot of these Clippers are going to be in play. Like Markieff Morris has a ceiling. I love 5K players that have 40-point upside, right? He's one of those guys, very similar to like a Will Barton. At times you might get that 20 and it's not great, but you have the ceiling to get the 40. I love Markieff in this spot. Paul George, he's getting more expensive at 8.7K. Does feel like kind of a plug and play, and I'm still going to get him into my lineups. Zubac, another guy I think is still at a decent price that you can kind of jam in there a little bit. And I think you can pick and choose. Like Reggie Jackson does have a ceiling still and still has opportunity to get there. They also have even talked about, like I read up a lot on the Clippers because I thought this was such a good bet and I wanted to just ensure it. They're kind of not playing like Kennard and Mann as much as you'd think because they're trying to get ready for the postseason and get this team right. So I'm more down on those guys. They are still getting minutes in the low 20s, but I'm not seeing them get those 27 minutes or 28-minute games. Now, it could flip on a dime out of nowhere if they want to change something up, but I prefer a Kennard over a Mann. Now, on the opposite side, we should talk about the Pacers because there are plays here to like. I think Brogdon is still in play. He's not this guy I'm prioritizing when I build out my lineups, but if I happen to fall on him, right, if I'm loading up on Clippers and I want to run something back, I lean going Brogdon over LeVert if I have to pick one or the other. But my favorite would be Sabonis because Sabonis' usage is just so strong. He's putting up these monster scores. He's still around 8.8K, which at that price, and there's a lot of good guys in the 8K range that I like today. Paul George, one of them, Sabonis, another one. At 8.8K for Sabonis, he has the ceiling of 60, even a 65. Now, of course, it's not like this absolute cupcake matchup, but it's still a solid spot. I'm not scared of Zubac's defense. So overall, I really like the idea of loading up on like 3 or 4 Clippers and then like running it back with a Sabonis and starting out my night with those 4 guys and then kind of starting to build out my lineups through there. Now, this is before we have any news, right? News could come and just change everything up, but I really think that's a really good start to a build when kind of constructing your lineups.
JSU, Travis loves the Clippers in this spot. What do you think?
Well, I would love to disagree and argue with Travis because we all know that will happen on this show, I promise, guaranteed. But this will not be the game that I disagree and argue with him, really because I love the take about the second unit. They're obviously going a little more with the veterans now with Rondo there, Batum. They're starting to come away from the young guys now. Terrence Mann, obviously, who's really good, by the way. Like, I don't know if they should necessarily take minutes away from him. I don't know if it's going to be the right move long term because I actually think he's really good. But if they're going to give the minutes to Rondo, I'm kind of all for it because Rondo's a winner, and Rondo is the perfect person to run the second unit for this team. He's not like Lou Williams. He is not looking for his shot. He's going to run the offense, and that's what they need. They don't need someone to come in there and jack up a ton of shots anymore. They need someone to get them in the right spots. That's what Rondo's going to do. He's going to be the leader of that second unit. Lou Will was the scorer of the second unit. He wasn't the leader of the second unit, right? There's a difference. So But, I love Rondo addition, and I like the take about Rondo being in play in DFS because I actually think he is in play in DFS at his price tag at 3.4K. He has 30 in him. Like, he can get you 30 in 20 minutes. Like that, he's a solid fantasy producer because he can get rebounds, assists, steals. He can do it all. So at that price tag, I like it. I like the Clippers to win here. Give me them. I'm on the same side. And then Sabonis. I'm looking at a points prop of 17.5. They don't have anyone to guard Sabonis down low. And with Miles Turner out, it's just more of Sabonis in there. Sabonis, I think, is going to dominate. I'm looking at some of his props, like 5.5 assists. He's hit that in 3 of his last 5 games. Like, I like a lot of Sabonis props here. So give me the over on some of these Sabonis props, especially the points. Over 17.5. He could do that in a half. Like, sometimes it's hard watching Sabonis because he'll come out in one half and he'll dominate. And then in the next half, he'll like disappear. He is one of those guys who does that at times. But against the Clippers, I think it's a spot where he dominates. No Serge Ibaka still. They don't have anyone, I think, who can really slow him down.
All right, guys. Well, I like the Clippers. Travis likes the Clippers. JSU likes the Clippers. You guys know what to do.
Yeah, one more thing I want to mention. So I agree. Big T has talked a lot about avoiding teams like the Clippers and the Lakers, these teams that are going to rest their stars and get ready. And I'm all for that. But keep in mind, the Clippers are that team last year. They walked into that bubble thinking they were kind of the champs and that they would just figure it out. And I think they realized that their mentality was wrong. And I think they are going to be worrying about keeping guys healthy, right? The main two, right? But they're going to make sure to be mentally ready to get there, right? They have talked about how it was what they did last year was kind of a mistake and they needed to get right. And I think you're going to see them try to go into the postseason strong rather than just kind of like fading completely and doing what they did last time. Now, of course, they're going to sit Kawhi and George in certain spots here and there, but you're not just going to see them walk in and act like they're going to win the title. So that's one thing I'm going to be watching for in the next month. I'm going to be watching for these guys like Markieff Morris and Batum. I don't think that they're going to be guys that just kind of sit out and don't do a lot. I think they're going to more so put pressure on. And by the end of the season, I think you're going to see some nice price tags on them. They're up in like the 6K range that you would be a little surprised about as long as they get the minutes with guys like those main guys starting to sit.
Yeah, and as the season finishes up, Travis, because I know you're a big guy on game theory, I'm going to be really interested to see if there's any gamesmanship that's going on. Talk about going to the playoffs strong, about trying to get the seeds where they want to be. Will teams be intentionally losing games to get a matchup they like, especially if the Lakers fall, or to avoid a matchup they don't want, another case if the Lakers fall. So that will be something to keep an eye on. And I love the way you're thinking about this, not only for tonight, but for long term as well. Let's go into the teams. Boy, tale of two teams right here, right? The Atlanta Hawks 29-25, 29-24 against the spread. Head to Tampa Bay to take on the Toronto Raptors, probably the most disappointing team this season. 21-33, 22-31 against the spread. Toronto's lost 3 of their last 4. Their only win was in Cleveland, a team that is just no good at all right now. Most recently, they lost to New York. They did keep that game close. They also lost to Chicago and the shorthanded Lakers. Now, Atlanta, on the other hand, has been playing fantastic. Since Nate McMillan took over, they're 15-5. That would be the 4th best record in the NBA since McMillan took over, so you can't argue with the results. They're on a 2-game winning streak. They most recently won in Charlotte. That was a nice one for me. I gave it out as a play. I was expecting Trae Young to play. He did not play. But I got the superstar subtraction, which we know how much I love that. The idea that when a player's out, the other players will be more excited with the extra usage and trying to carve their role as a higher usage guy in the new offense, and that gives a more energetic effort from the team on both ends of the floor. So I got a little superstar subtraction there. Now Atlanta is laying 2 in Toronto. I can't back this Toronto team. I haven't bet Atlanta yet, but that seems to me to be the only way.
By the way, Spread, if anyone's watching, log into your sportsbook. Andre Drummond just got ruled questionable, so if you can grab any props, that's an interesting idea. So right now, it just got ruled questionable. You have probably a minute and a half, 2 minutes to pull it off. So I don't know what's up there, but just give it a look.
All right. Well, I'll keep my bookmaker up there as well. But let's start with you, JSU. What do you think about this game? Am I overlooking Toronto here, or is this just keep rolling with Atlanta? Right. I mean, keep going with the team that's cashing for me.
Yeah, I mean, no Kyle Lowry for this game. He's ruled out. I don't know how you can confidently back Toronto. Right. Like that's how I'm looking at it. Now, yes, there's some news to still wait on. They said that Trae Young will play tonight, right, but he's still technically questionable. Exactly. And even when they say that, like, okay, that's fine. You anticipate it. What if he comes out and, pregame and he starts warming up and something doesn't feel right? They're not going to risk him. So I want to wait on this game for sure, because I think it's the Atlanta side if you're taking a side. Mm-hmm. But, like, if Trae Young's out, now I think it's a little more of a coin toss because they already got a bunch of guys who are already out for this game. Mm-hmm. John Collins has been out. DeAndre Hunter's been out. Gallinare's doubtful, so I'm assuming he's going to be out. I mean, they don't have a ton of bodies.
JT Hayes isn't going to forgive you if you don't forget the other guy that they're missing.
No, I'm not talking about him. I refuse to even say his name.
You dare disrespect the GOAT Tony Snell, okay?
Oh, God, you said his name. No, he shouldn't be mentioned on these shows. KT, where you at? But, no, seriously, like, I don't know how anyone can confidently bet Toronto. For me, it's Atlanta or pass. But I still want to wait on Trae Young news. I think this is a game where I might stay off of until I get him confirmed in the lineup. When I have that, I would definitely take Atlanta.
All right. Well, I'll probably be watching the final countdown with you and Holden, and I don't think that we're going to get that news until then. Right? Doesn't this seem like a situation where he's going to get out, he's going to test it? I don't think it's going to be on that 2:30 injury report.
No, I think it's going to be after his warm-up. Yeah,
so
for sure.
Do you think the line moves, though? Or do you think I'm safe and I can still get the -2? Or do you think if he's rolled in, it just moves to -5? Because I'm not playing it at -5.
I don't know. I think they anticipate him playing.
Yeah. It's tough, though. I anticipated him playing on Sunday.
You know what, Spread?
For the playoff spot, it's tough.
If Trae Young's out and they have to play Lou Williams 35 minutes and not saying Lou Will is Trae Young or anything like that, but he can at least score. I don't know.
Not bad. The minute I watched that whole Charlotte game because that was my play, and it was Sunday. We were barbecuing, lit the weights. I had it on. We were having fun with it. I didn't think Lou ran that offense that bad because he kind of plays similar to Trae Young. Obviously, the passing is where the real drop off is there, but Trae Young's not that good defensively, so that's not a loss. And his shooting and his creation is pretty good. Obviously, the 3-point shooting isn't the same, but he's still able to get to the cup.
It's just the depth is lost, like huge, exactly. not just the style and the greatness that obviously Trae Young is very good, but it's the depth too, scoring. Like, Lou Will is a scorer, but they don't really have much else. Like you're gonna have to rely on Lou Will being really good, putting that ball in the hoop if Trae Young's out. So
that guy Goodwin or Godwin is hella fast, but it never really translates to points. But you watch him, he's quick.
He did play he played a boatload of minutes the other day, which was shocking. But JSU, you know why Trae Young's going to sit, right? Because it's a Lou Williams revenge game, right? That's why he's going to sit. Definitely not. But in that cup of coffee he had there of his entire career, thought that'd be funny to bring up though. I think Trae Young plays. I just pulled up the schedule just to make sure. They play Thursday against Milwaukee. It is a 4-game slate, I think, on Thursday. So I think that's obviously increases the chance of that being the TNT game of the night, right? I don't know if it is, but it could be. It's against Milwaukee, so I wouldn't be shocked. So there's a chance they maybe rest him to make sure he's ready for that game. But they go Tuesday, Thursday, and then they play Sunday, right? So that's a pretty big gap, Thursday to Sunday. So I do think there's a chance he plays tonight against the Raptors. That's my lean right now. I do think you might see, and I'm kind of in the camp of you guys, I don't want to bet on Toronto. I think they're just super lame right now. Maybe Lowry turns that around, but I'm not exactly sure, and I kind of want to see it before I even jump on them. So I do think Trae plays, and in DFS, JSU, I would have some concerns of rostering him because if the game gets out of hand, right? If if for some reason Lou Williams or Bogdanovich are running the offense fine or Goodwin's playing well, there's just more opportunities just to be like, okay, we're not going to give Trey 38 minutes. We might give him 30 or 29. So, and that's one thing that you look at a projection, and I ran an optimal today and it had Trae Young in there. And I said, no, I'm not going to probably do that. There's other guys at the top I like. You know who I like? Clint Capella. I like him over Trae Young. The reason why I like Clint Capella over Trae Young is if you look at this Raptors team, they are horrific against big men. I mean, they just get destroyed on the boards. And we've seen Clint Capella go for 60 fantasy points. Again, 8.5K, it's uncomfortable. FanDuel, 9.3K, it's uncomfortable. But I still think you could get away with it if you're looking for ways to like overspend it on FanDuel. The salary, not that it doesn't matter, but at times it's very loose salary. And I think going up to a Clint Capella is a way to get unique, and he can have a 60 fantasy point game. And I think he could crush. And just to kind of give you an example, JSU, I pulled up some of the game logs of guys that have played against the Raptors so far. Last game, Nerlens Noel had 38 or 36.8 DraftKings points against the Raptors. If Nerlens Noel can do that, what can Clint Capella do? Dusty Marc Gasol had 37.8 DraftKings points. Those are the last two games. Like, Clint Capella is going to destroy this team down low. Absolutely kill them. I love him in this spot at 8.5K. Someone I'm definitely going to try and get into my lineups. Now, Andre Drummond just got ruled questionable, right? So Montrezl Harrell's going to be very interesting. And, like, again, center is normally typically priced down as cheaper guys. And, like, that's how you kind of lose guys like Capella throughout your lineups, because you can only play the max of 2 centers. And on FanDuel, you can only play 1. So it's just going to depend on construction. But I'm going to look to try and get him in there. And I know the price is a lot, but I think JSU is going to just jam him in there in tournaments. Am I right, JSU?
Yeah, we talking about Capella. I'm gonna jam in. Yeah. So just to give an idea, because I know what Mangone's talking about, and I'm gonna tell you exactly why. This is why, and I think this is one of the reasons why sometimes Nurse gets pissed off at Boucher, and a reason why at times he's been in and out of the lineup. One of the things with Boucher that I would assume drives the coach nuts is he thinks he can block everything. And sometimes he commits too much to helping and trying to block the shot, and he leaves his guy. And when you leave a guy, especially a big, down low in the paint, and that shot isn't blocked, if there's a missed shot, there's a rebound and a putback. Clint Capella, when Trae Young gets in the lane, if Trae Young misses those floaters, Clint Capella is going to eat them up, because Chris Boucher is not going to be able to stop trying to block that shot. He literally, every single time, if they can get by their defenders and get into the lane and make Boucher commit, there's going to be dump-offs, putbacks all over the place for Clint Capella. I wouldn't be shocked if in the first half he had a double-double. Like, that's one of the reasons, though, why I think Boucher sometimes struggles to stay on the court at times this year. He has anyways. I think they get pissed off sometimes with some of that crap, whereas Aaron Baines is, he's probably a little more of a smarter, heady defender, even though Boucher is way more talented, right? Like, not even close. But that's the thing. That's kind of what you give up. And you can kind of see it in some of the games where Boucher's played big minutes. Sometimes, you can watch the game. I guarantee you're going to see Trae Young get into the paint multiple times, and he's going to try and block that shot, and Capella is going to be left wide open for those putbacks.
Or if he rotates too early, you get the awesome little alley-oop, which...
Well, yeah, one of those two, right?
Right, yeah.
Here's a question on Capella. What would you do with his rebounds prop? It's on Bet365 I got, and this is the first book I could find it. 15.5 rebounds and 17.5 points for him. Is that that's absurd, right? It's so high, but I wouldn't be shocked if he crushed him, right?
No, I'm not saying that you'll lose, but you can't make that.
Yeah, I know.
I just said I wouldn't be shocked if he had a double-double in the first half. I mean, I wouldn't be shocked if he had, 15 or 20 rebounds here. I just don't think you can bet that prop at 15 and a half or whatever it is. That's a little much.
The only thing I
know how to run the exact math on it, but there's no way paying even at minus 110.
It's not even minus 110 because it's Bet365. That's the worst part. It's like minus 130. It's ridiculous.
Oh, jeez. Yeah.
You can probably shop around and find better if you want. Bet365 has some bad lines sometimes both ways. Like too high and too low. So that's why I went and pulled it up. It's a pretty crazy number.
I think that number you just used just more as an argument why he should be in your DFS lineups.
Exactly.
15.5, right? And we're considering betting the over, even though we're saying, it's a bad value. The thought did cross your mind. So I think that was a great breakdown of that game. I think if Trae Young's in, Atlanta's worth a look. If not, I think there's no shame in passing on that game at all. Do you guys
other thing too, with Trae Young, whether he plays or not, I still, with all these guys out, I think going and over on a guy like Bogdanovich is at 18.5, that prop. He just like to read out some of his last 8 games, 32, 10, 24, 21, 10, 26, 28, 22. Those were his last 8 games. So he's went over that prop in 6 of his last 8. I think that number, I think you could go over on that number.
There's built-in value there too, because Trae Young is listed as in on Bet365. I got 17.5 on Bogdanovich, and then I have Trae Young is in there at 25.5. So that's worth mentioning as well. And listen, the Raptors don't play any defense, right? Bogdanovich this is one of those games where Bogdanovich could absolutely smash.
Well, the Raptors defense is those guards, right? Fred VanVleet is a very good perimeter defender. Even Kyle Lowry.
He's not playing tonight, is he?
No, he's out. This is my point. Kyle Lowry, who I in my opinion, isn't as good as he's been in the past, but he's still a decent perimeter defender. Those guys are out. So, their defense definitely takes a hit when those guys are out, for sure. I mean, OG's going to be in, and he's a good defender, but still, I think, taking a shot on those guys for sure. They need someone on the perimeter that's going to score. Bogdanovich and Trae are really their only options unless you see Kevin Huerter or Lou Will going out and putting up a big game.
And we talked about this a little bit, JSU, that one day we were having fun with my player rankings. But I think it also is emblematic of how much team defense is based around rim protection and your bigs. And this is a Toronto defense that was top 5 in the league the last 3 years. They lose Ibaka, and they lost Gasol. But let's be honest, Gasol lost his athleticism and his ability. They brought him back. It still doesn't matter at where he's at physically at this point in his career. But losing both those guys, even if you have these great perimeter defenders, they're not always going to be able to stand in front of these lightning quick NBA guys who, they're all just incredible athletes. And without the rim protection, it's just really hard to be a good defense, regardless of how good you are on ball. So, I think that we're seeing that this year with Toronto and how they went from one of the best defenses to one of the worst defenses while keeping mainly, the same perimeter guys out there. So, but we don't want to spend too much time on that game. Let's jump into the Lakers, heading to Charlotte to take on the Hornets. I'd love to hear your guys' thoughts on this game. Both these teams are completely beat up, so throw the model out the window. I don't really know. I guess the Lakers, we have 10 games now of this new lineup, so we can kind of model them. The Hornets are kind of tough still here. I don't think we're going to even have a Malik Monk tonight for the Hornets, are we?
You don't have PJ Washington. Terry Rozier is doubtful. This team kind of sucks right now. It's definitely really bad. I will say,
Monk back.
Is it sick that I think the Lakers might be one of the better bets of the night?
It is crazy to think, but they're definitely I don't know. It's hard to bet on this Charlotte team for sure today. I can't do it. I'll tell you that.
So, do we have is Malik Monk back in the lineup here or no?
I think he's still out.
Yeah, Monk is out.
You're out for a while. They don't put you on fantasy on the Basketball Monster, which
we have
me off when I'm trying to do this quick.
No, we have Monk is out. He was expected to miss 2 weeks from about the second, so we're almost at that mark. But I think he's out. Rozier is doubtful, and PJ Washington got ruled out a little before we got on the show, I think.
All right. Well, first of all, let's hear why the Lakers are the best, because best bet on the board, JSU, because I was completely torn on this game. I've been all aboard the fading the Lakers train, but this Charlotte team is even more beset with injuries than the Lakers are, right? And what, it's going to be the Devontae Graham show? I think it's hard to trust the Charlotte team. What do you think?
Yeah, I can't trust a Brad Wanamaker, Devontae Graham, Miles Bridges, who else? Cody Zeller, McDaniels, Biombo. I can't trust this team. What are we doing here? Even if Drummond's out, I don't care about that. That to me doesn't move the needle very much. I think Trez is a really solid player. I think he can give you the double-double that Drummond was going to give you in this game. So I think that's fine. And Schroeder, Kuzma, THT, I think that's going to be enough in this game for the Lakers. I think, first of all, too, the Charlotte Hornets, they don't have a ton of rim protection. I think Schroeder is going to go off in this game. I mean, they might start Biyombo, but either way, like, he's not going to play a ton. And if they start trying to switch on to Schroeder, he's going to do what he did to Claxton in Brooklyn, where in the first half he literally just took him to the rim like 4 straight times and just layup after layup after layup, dish for a layup. Like, he's just going to do that against the Charlotte Hornets team. I don't see anyone that's going to stop him from getting in the paint and doing what he wants. So I love Dennis Schroeder here. I think his price on DraftKings, I think it's a misprice. It's down to 6.5K. I love that here. I think that's too cheap. Again, I don't like Charlotte at all. I'm taking the Lakers. I think they're one. I've been off the Lakers this entire time, literally since LeBron and AD. I thought they were pretty much a fade every game. This is going to be the first spot I jump on the Lakers here. I can't trust this Charlotte Hornets team. I don't know where the scoring is going to come from. Where is it with no Terry, no Gordon Hayward, no PJ Washington? They're going to pray Jalen McDaniels and Miles Bridges and Devontae Graham can put up 20, because that's the only way they're staying in this game.
All right, Travis, you and JSU have been surprisingly in lockstep so far today. Are you ready to take the stand and go on the other side yet?
No, I'm not going to take a quick left hook out of nowhere on JSU. I can't hear. We'll keep, as they do in the UFC, right? They just kind of dance with each other for all. Me and JSU will keep dancing before anyone makes a move here, because I can't, man. Like, I'm not betting on this Hornets team. Now, DFS-wise, I want to talk about it a little bit. And I agree with JSU.
Graham?
What?
Devontae Graham and play on
we'll talk about him here real quick. But, like, I do agree on JSU. Like, I'm going to jump on the Lakers here rather than jumping on the Hornets. Like, I'm definitely going to do that. I'm not going to jump on the Hornets at all. But in DFS, you have to consider it, right? Like, so I'm kind of trying to count bodies here, right? Because all this news kind of came out, like, before we got on the show. So Devontae Graham is someone that you got to look at 6.3K. Makes some sense. If the game is close, he's definitely going to be a big part of it. So 6'3", he definitely still can hit a ceiling, but I don't know if that's the best allocation of money. That's going to be the decision that has to be made. Brad Wanamaker is 3'8", and I mean, listen, I'm not a huge Wanamaker guy, but 23 minutes, 28 minutes, and then he had 25 fantasy points, 23.25 and 25.25. Like, the production has been there, so I don't want to ignore him completely. So that's 2 bodies right there at the guards, right, that you definitely know would play. You got Caleb Martin. That's a 3rd guy. Then you got Bridges. You got Cody Martin. So we got 5 there. Then we got McDaniels, which is 6. And then Zeller, Biyombo, they all take positions at 7, 8. I think I thought I had 9. Maybe I miscounted before. Yeah, I guess they only have really 8 real bodies that can actually play. I mean, they can play.
Can Nick Richards play? I think so.
So he can play, right? But I mean, like, guys that are actually part of the rotation. Sorry. So so those are the rotation key pieces. Now there's the guys that could get minutes out of nowhere, right? Like Grant Riller got 2 minutes against the Bucks and then 5 minutes against Boston. But I don't think those guys are going to be part of the rotation really much. Like, even like Nate Darling got 2 minutes. Like, these guys aren't really part of the rotation. So they're ultimately only playing with, like, I believe 8 bodies, as long as I didn't miscount it, which I don't think I did. And keep in mind, of having 8 bodies, Zeller and Biyombo, you're not going to see them together. They're going to split those 48 minutes. So 6 guys are splitting all those other minutes, where they're hard to ignore some of these prices, right? Like McDaniels, I don't see how he, like, doesn't get there, I feel like, at 4-3. Like, he feels like someone I have to, like, go to and play, because he might even be a guy who's blowout proof, right? Like, you could see Nate Richards on the floor, and you could see them going McDaniels at the 5 and not going Biyombo and Zeller. So, like, I feel really safe about McDaniels. Bridges, I don't hate. I believe his handle eligibility has moved from power forward back to small forward. Thought I saw someone say that in the Discord chat, so that's obviously encouraging because you get to roster him over there. Bridges is in play, but the price has gone up to 5'8". So, again, it is still pricier than I would like. I don't know what to do with the Martin brothers because the price tags are good, right? They haven't gotten a pile of minutes, but I think those guys are going to kind of steal some of these minutes here, right? Like, You're going to see Caleb Martin has played 14, 19, 7, 19 minutes in his last 4 games. Cody, he has played 9, 13, 16, 17. You're going to see those move more up to in the low 20s, I believe, on those guys, and them kind of soak up some of Terry Rozier's minutes and then Terry Rozier's usage. So these guys are in play at those low 3K price tags. I just don't know how heavy I want to go on those guys, JSU. Like, you would talk, JSU, a lot about like wanting to play dudes that are just good at basketball, right? And there are enough guys that are good at basketball probably on this slate to maybe avoid them. So that's definitely one of my issues when I build out lineups. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't, right? I plug in some of these really dusty guys like a Caleb Martin because he's going to play 28 minutes. And if he can get there and then all the other pieces I just have are so elite, I'm going to find my way to the top. How are you approaching that, JSU? Because that's something that I've talked about a little bit about with you, and I'm trying to think through DFS-wise how I should approach that tonight.
Yeah, I mean, so I'm with you that it looks like they pretty much have an 8-man rotation unless the game gets out of hand. And right now, Vegas is telling us that they think this game stays close. I think the game's going to be relatively close. I'm not saying the Lakers are going to just blow them out of the water. That's not what I'm saying. But I do think the Lakers end up winning. But from a DFS purpose, like, let me give you an example. So, like, first of all, the good basketball players on this team are very few as it is. Like, I think Devontae Graham is good at basketball. Now, does he always get the run? Does Terry Rozier and Gordon Hayward and LaMelo Ball, when they're in there, kind of have the ball in their hands a lot? Yeah, so that takes away from Devontae Graham. But I do think he is good. Jalen McDaniels is good. This kid is definitely good. But then Miles Bridges, I think Miles Bridges is a good basketball player. I think he can play both ends of the floor. Is he like a scorer, though? Is he a fantasy stud? I mean, if he's getting 40 minutes, yeah, he could be really good if he's getting 40 minutes. With Bridges, it's always been, and Mangone, you can back me up on this, he always plays like normally when everyone's in 25, 28, right? He never gets the 37, 40 that we're seeing the last couple of slates where look at his production. I mean, he's had 2 games in the 40s and with 37 out of his last 5. Like, that's really good. And in all those games, he's gotten at least 31 or more minutes. So if I'm going to get 30-plus minutes out of Miles Bridges, like, yeah, I think he's a roster. But then you get the Martin brothers who are not good at basketball, and Brad Wanamaker. Oh, God. The only problem I have with Brad Wanamaker is he's going to have the ball in his hands. That's what sucks about Brad Wanamaker.
He's 3'8", and he hasn't been that bad. Like, he really hasn't. And now Terry Rozier is out, right? So there's more ball handling opportunity. And another thing, JSU, you talk about how the Martin brothers suck. We don't talk about this enough sometimes. These guys, like, Brad Wanamaker is going to be on the court with the Martin brothers, right? So if the Martin brothers don't have the ball in their hands, someone else has to, right? Like, so that's something that doesn't get talked about enough. Like,
I don't like one of them, right, Mangone? Like, yeah, I can't not like all of them. That's the problem I'm having.
Like, I was looking last night. I was looking at some of Rondo's production and seeing why he's been so good. Well, he's on the court with, like, Patrick Patterson, who doesn't touch the ball, right? Like, that's key sometimes when you're on the court with, like, PJ Tucker. Yes, your usage is going to be better. And, like, if you don't like the Martin brothers, and we got both of them on the court, like, Wanamaker is going to do stuff, and he's 3'8". Like, I don't want to ignore that completely, but also opportunity cost. Do I want to waste the guard spot on that? Like, let's say I plug in Graham. Let's say I plug in Graham. Let's say I plug in Wanamaker. I have both those guys in there. Let's say I also have 2 centers in there. I leave 1 guard spot left, right? And there's a bunch of guards that you can play. And then on top of that, we have value like Jalen McDaniels who you can go to. Like, there's other value plays where you can go to where now you have to start talking about, once we get injury news that flows in, you have to start talking about opportunity costs and rostering a Brad Wanamaker compared to some other studs at other positions. So it's the slate can change in different ways, but you can't ignore Brad Wanamaker, even though I know he feels gross.
And here's the thing, too, with DFS, right? You have to look at these guys and it's like, okay, who are the main guys that are going to play the big minutes? Well, it's going to be Devontae Graham. It's going to be Miles Bridges. It's going to be McDaniels. It's probably going to be Brad Wanamaker. And then the center position is going to be soaked up by Cody Zeller and Biyombo for the most part, where I think they'll probably end up splitting there. most likely. Maybe if one's playing better than the other, maybe he gets a few more minutes. But like after that, who is getting the other, are the Martin brothers kind of splitting the rest of those minutes, those key minutes that these guys are leaving, where it keeps them in that like 20 to 25 minute range? Or does one get 30 and another one get 15, right, Mangone? Because if one was getting 30 plus, then it's like, okay, I think he's in play at 3.1 or 3.2.
Also, click on the right one, right? Yeah, click on the right one, too. I don't know. I couldn't pick him out of the lineup, if I'm being honest. So, yeah.
No, I mean, how could you? Like, Caleb Martin, got a little more run than his brother Cody the last 2 games, I believe. But, haired him out, one game against Milwaukee. But if you look beyond that, Cody Martin's been the one they've been consistently giving more minutes to than Caleb over the last 10 games. And I'm pretty sure Cody Martin is the one that has always gotten a little bit more run than his brother Caleb. I think he's the better of the two. And I'm not mixing them up either because I've definitely seen them both. And I remember Cody Martin is definitely probably the better of the two. So if I'm going to take one, it's going to be him. But it is weird that his brother edged him out in minutes the last 2 games. I don't know why.
Only thing I'll say is you can do some Twitter searches. Like the Hornets beat writers are pretty good about giving a lot of information. So is the coach. So that is one situation you might be able to get some decent info on pre-lock. So this game
is great for DFS.
Yeah.
You got a 1-point spread. You got the Lakers who suck. You got the Hornets who suck. You got a bunch of cheap guys. And then you got a bunch of guys in the mid-tier. You don't even have to pay up for a stud. Like this game, you can stack, and then you can just pick your favorite stud of the slate.
And we haven't talked about the Lakers that much. Jason, you talked about Astaire, which I thought was a great call because his price tag is cheap. We also didn't mention Harrell enough, right? He's 5.5K. And, like, are they really going to run out there like Marc Gasol? Like, I mean, how many minutes is he really going to get, right? You assume with Drummond questionable or out, or he's questionable, which I'm leaning he probably ends up being out. You can make an argument for Harrell to play a ton of minutes, and Charlotte gets beat up inside. And the other thing, like, some people might argue, oh, this game could go small. How's it going to go small? They need to play one of Biyombo and Zeller the entire game, right? Like, unless it's like a blowout and at the end, are they really going to run like a McDaniels, Bridges, double Martins with Graham? I mean, maybe, but it just –
they could run out Bridges, McDaniels. I mean, Bridges is like that Swiss Army knife, right? Like he could play that 3, that 4, even the 5, really, if they wanted to, in this style of NBA. Remember, Trez is a big guy, but he's undersized for a center. You know what I mean? It's not like he's super tall either. And Miles Bridges is a big body guy. He's strong. Like he's the same way. He's not super tall. But he is a big body. I'm not saying he could guard Trez on the block, but I'm not saying he would get dominated. It's not like Trez would just body him and push him over. Bridge is a big dude.
All right. Well, I challenge anybody watching to find a more comprehensive breakdown of the Barton brothers on the World Wide Web. Send it to me, and we'll get you out some gear if you can find it, but I don't think you will. So.
I'm going Cody greater than Caleb. Mangone.
You know what's awesome is I told you
Caleb, just so we can be on opposite sides.
The thing is, I wish I could tell you which one brother I rostered once this year. I did it once. I can't even tell you who I rostered. So
I'm betting it's Cody.
Yeah, he's gotten the most minutes most of the time. So yeah, it was probably Cody that I did one time. But that's I'm not gonna my decision to land a hook on you, JSU. It's not gonna be on the Martin brothers.
All right. Well, let's move on. I don't know if this next game we're going to be able to get us in depth. I'm not as interested in it. I thought that last game was fascinating. This one, not so much. Oklahoma City Thunder, 20-33, 25-28 against the spread. But remember, that number was a lot better about 10 games ago. That against the spread record has really nosedived these last 10 games as the full tank has begun. And it's quite evidenced by the spread. The Utah Jazz are laying 17.5 now. This number opened at 16. I don't know about you guys. Obviously, you can't do that with DFS. But from a betting perspective, I pretty much scratched this one off my list when I started doing my preparation last night. I really had no interest in laying the 16. I had no interest in backing the Thunder. So you guys can go ahead and break it down and see if you're going to get involved here from a DFS perspective, or if I'm missing the boat and maybe I should be grabbing the points here, or looking at this total, which is 223. JSU, we'll start with you.
Yeah, I mean, there's no way I can take the points with Utah here. Like, there's no way I can do that. Like, if anything, it's dog or pass for me. 17, I'm looking at on DK Sportsbook. Like,
yeah, ridiculous.
Yeah, it's dog or pass for me. And honestly, it's a game where I'm probably not going to bet. So, but if someone did want to bet it, I would just take the Thunder. Utah, is at least they're coming off a game last night, so maybe they're a little tired. It was a close game too. So
yeah.
And are Conley and Clarkson? Do we have any news on them?
Let me give you the news that I have. I have Conley is probable. Clarkson is questionable on the OKC side. I mean, it's just a sea of red. Muscala out. Poku out. Gabriel Deck. Did you hear about this guy? No one even thinks he can play in the NBA, but to meet the salary floor, they signed him. I guess he was drafted in 2016, and basically they're just like, this guy's not going to be an NBA player. But they went ahead and signed him anyways. I'll be interested to see if he gets any run at all. But he's out as well. Josh Hall, Isaiah Roby, and of course SGA. My guy Dort's in there, but I don't know if that's enough. Travis, what do you think about this game? Are you tempted by taking the 17, and are you going to roster some Thunder or some Jazz?
No, I think I'm okay to not mess with this game. I did see some chatter from the Jazz saying we're pretty tired. They
yeah, I read that today too.
They've grinded a little bit this season, and I think you've noticed, I think, over the past month or so, it's caught up to them a bit. It's definitely been something I've noticed in watching some of their games. I assume Clarkson sits. If he plays, I think they randomly might sit a Mitchell, right? I wouldn't be shocked to see just someone sit out of nowhere here. They do have off for a while, though. Yeah. They get to rest until Friday, and then they play Friday and Saturday, and they play the Pacers, and then they play the Lakers. So it's at least a decent break they're going to have coming up, which I think you'd always make the argument, you push through one more game, play the first half, they just rest in the second half. And that is a fear, right? They just get up so much where they kind of coasted the second half. That could definitely happen. I'm doing my best, I think, to stay away from this game because I think there's a lot of good DFS options. We talked about some before. There's some more later on. I also want to be betting on games that are going to be close going down the stretch. I feel like I've talked about doing that a lot this year, and I haven't done it enough. And I'm going to make sure over this last month to do that. And this is just a game I don't expect to be that close. I don't see a ton of value everywhere. Unless some OKC value pops up out of nowhere that I'm not seeing, I don't think I'm really going to touch this game.
Let's just move on to the next game because this game's much more interesting, and I think you guys are going to have hotter takes for this. Speaking of hot, Miami Heat, 28-25, 23-29 against the spread. Head to Phoenix to take on the Suns, who did not get it done for me last night. They were up by 20-something at some point. They ended up only winning by 8, so they did not cover for me. Of course, they did get the win, so that's all that matters to them, but I was a little disappointed. The Suns are 19-10 at home against the spread, and they're 8-4 on a back-to-back here. The Heat are only 4-10 against teams that have won more than 55% of their games this season. I personally think the Heat are a tad bit overvalued. I think that we still are fondly remembering the run in the bubble last year, but conditions have changed, players have changed, and I'll tell you what, I just don't buy this team. This was the one that jumped out to me as the board, as obviously I'm going to talk to them all, and we'll give it out at the end of the show, but this was the one that I looked at for my best bet. I'm not a big believer in the Heat, especially not in this spot. JSU, let me hear it. What do you think?
Yeah, I think the play is the Suns. I looked at the line. I was kind of shocked that it was 3. I'm taking the Suns here. I think they're just the better team, better than the Heat, even though I think the Heat are a solid team. I'm backing these Suns. They've come through for me a lot. And I remember, haven't they played already? Haven't they played once already?
Yeah, Phoenix won in Miami. I don't remember the exact score off the top of my head. The reason that I remember though is
They covered though, because I remember because I was it was like they were on the slate. I was on the show.
It was on the 23rd, and Phoenix won 110 to 100. You were on the show, and we both love Phoenix there. And honestly, that 110 to 100 is way closer than the actual game. I remember it being a no sweat. They were up by 20-something the whole game. The Heat made a nice little run with the reserves in the garbage time to make it respectable, but it was an easy win.
Yeah, no, I just because right now I think Phoenix is just a better team. I think Phoenix is one of the best teams in the league right now. Like people, in my opinion, anyways, people underrated Chris Paul and the signing when it happened, and then now that they're starting to see the trend of when Chris Paul joins new teams and how they are successful. Now they're like, oh yeah, Chris Paul, like, duh, no, a lot of people were making fun of the get. Like a lot of people were not a believer in the move when it happened. I remember right when it happened, I think it was on a show for another sport, and I talked about saying I thought Phoenix was going to be one of the better teams in the West, and they are. Like at least in this regular season, maybe when the playoffs come, they'll collapse. Who knows? But the regular season, they look like one of the better teams defensively, better teams overall at just forcing teams to play their style. I think this is just the Suns bet right here. Take the Suns minus the 3. For me, I really like them here.
Yeah, and don't look now. Phoenix is 1 game out of the number 1 seed here. So, not a lot here. And hey, Mangone, I might even throw in a Coach of the Year vote here for Chris Paul, right? I mean, he's doing so much for the team, not just on the floor, but in helping these young guys develop. What do you think? We haven't had much disagreement yet. Is this the time that you
No. I mean, you know me. I'm a Suns backer.
This is unbelievable.
I'm holding. The Suns like to win the division ticket, right? I'm holding everything. So okay. I'm always on the Suns. So hard for me to argue against them here in this spot. The Heat have been playing really well too, and I don't want to doubt that at all. But the Suns are just on another level than the Heat right now, in my opinion. So I'm not going to bet against them. This is a game DFS-wise I'm not going to touch at all. I just don't think you need to. I don't think the prices are down on any of these guys where it's in play. I'll just check real quick. I looked the other night, it didn't look like the prices were that great. Yeah, Paul is still up, right, as usual. I don't need to mess with Dragic and Hero, I don't think. I guess you can make an argument for Dragic at 4.6 has a ceiling, but you don't need to do that, right? Like, that's just me doing the tout thing where you just kind of mention the price and how he has a ceiling and if he gets the minutes, but I don't think he's going to just get the minutes out of nowhere. They got him in bubble wrap. Ayton, I don't think it's the right matchup for him where he's just going to destroy, even though he has been pretty decent, and 6'8's not a bad tag. This just feels like a decent stay-away game, unless you're a big revenge truther, JSU. Jay Crowder revenge. There you go. We'll look at 4-5, and that's it.
All right.
Jay Crowder?
JSU, I'm just messing. The revenge. We've been playing it up all show. We got to keep talking about revenge.
Did you see Jimmy Butler going after Derek Jones Jr., though?
That was amazing, by the way.
I missed it. What happened?
How do you not love Jimmy Butler? Like, Jimmy Butler has to be one of my favorite players just to, listen to. That guy, he was obviously messing around, but, I love it. I love him just, going at his former teammates, other players that aren't on his – pretty much if you're not on his team, he's going right at you. He don't give a crap.
He was joking, right? Couldn't tell.
He was. No, he was.
Yeah, you never know with him though. He has said some stuff about the Timberwolves
that was the best part though of it was at the beginning he really said it without making an obvious reaction if he was lying or not. That was the funny part. And then at the very end he kind of kept going with it and then cracked a little smile. You could tell he was joking a little at the end, but yeah, it was all in fun. But I mean. It was good though. Spread. You got to find the video. It's just him. They asked him pretty much. The question was, why do you think your team's defense has been so much better this year from last year? And he just looked at the reporter and said, because we got rid of Derek Jones Jr.'s ass or whatever. It's just we kicked his ass out.
He said we got his ass out of here or whatever.
Yeah.
Very good.
That's funny because he's actually a pretty good defender too. So obviously he was messing.
I think that was the point. That was the point, though. Was like, I think that was the point. Yeah, we got his ass out of here.
I love it. All right, well, let's jump into this last game because you guys got to end up on the opposite side of one of these games. The Boston Celtics 28-26, 26-28 against the spread, but they're rounded into form playing the Portland Trailblazers, who might as well be called the Portland Roller Coasters in my mind. I can never figure out where this team's going, but they're 31-22, surprisingly, 26-26 against the spread. Boston's won 3 in a row. Most recently, a nice win over Denver. I mean, I think they went on a 31-3 run at one point in that game.
Yep. It was in the fourth. It was in the fourth quarter, which was the most impressive part, right?
Yeah, and then you go to the Portland side. It's the exact opposite. They've lost 3 of 4. The only team that they beat was Detroit here. They lost to good teams, but still. They lost to the Clippers, they lost to the Jazz, and they lost to Miami. And the thing I would take away from those games, not the fact that they lost, they got soundly beat in all those games. They weren't competitive, and I think that's the more important thing to take away. Still, these are two teams that have really had problems handicapping this season, more so Portland than Boston. But I have not taken a side yet, so hopefully you guys can guide me, or I can be the tiebreaker here after I hear the sides from both sides. But Travis, this is your team, so let's start with you. Are you going to back your favorite, the Boston Celtics?
Yeah, I'll admit, I feel like I've been like wrong on the Celtics more than I wish I could have been. But I feel like my take was like kind of right that like once they get healthy, like it'll get figured out and they'll be a lot better. And I feel like the COVID has really affected Tatum a bit, and maybe over this past week was like the breakthrough, right? Like maybe that was it. I don't know, or it could just be, hey, he had one really good week and just kind of got hot, and that's what happens. I don't like betting on Portland. Portland is a team that I am not a huge believer in. I do think, yes. Do I like Portland in the postseason when like Dame is playing, right, and getting all the usage and their dogs? Yes, I think that's when like betting Portland always feels like it's most profitable. But I don't think I want to be betting on Portland here in this spot. I'm going to bet on the healthier Celtics team. Yes, they don't have Evan Fournier, but that's okay, right? He's still not part of like that core group of 4 anyways. They've been a lot better. I'm going to bet on the Celtics here in this spot. I don't even know if I'm going to make it like a priority to bet them, but if you're telling me I have to bet something, right? Like this is going to be there. It's not my best bet of the day. I did look at this team and I considered making it someone to put on my betting card today, but I do like the Celtics side. I lean that side. I'm not going to bet on Portland here. They got CJ, right? They have Dame. They have Nurkic. And it pulls away from Dame's usage, which I just don't like. And he goes in takeover mode when he has to, right? And it's like, I don't know. Right now, it just doesn't feel like the time for him to. It feels like they're getting Nurkic back right. They're getting CJ back in a rhythm. So I just don't want to be betting on Portland right now. So give me the Celtics +1. And DFS-wise, we can talk about it in a little bit, but I want to see what side JSU's on.
Yeah,
I get me here finally. What are we doing here, JSU?
JSU jumping in. Are you going to take the Blazers here?
Man, I wanna just take the Blazers and jump right all over Mangone right now. So real quick, like you look at the Portland Trailblazers, their last few games, and you look at who they've won and lost to. Like it's pretty much like they've beaten the bad teams and lost to all the good teams. Look at this, like the Heat last game, then they beat the Pistons the game before, the Jazz they lose to, the Clippers they lose to, the Thunder they win, the Bucks they lose, Pistons they won. Raptors they won, Magic they won. So it's like it looks like they're like beating the teams that they should beat, but those teams that are solid teams or better, they're losing to right now. And it's just because they can't play no defense. Like they just don't have enough. And I think the Celtics are just right now a better team all around. And it's close enough where I think I'm just going to take the Celtics in this game. I just don't trust Portland to get it done for me defensively in a close game. I'm just not going to trust it. I love Dame in close games, but the team is just at a point where I can't trust them defensively. And with the Celtics all healthy, pretty much outside of Fournier, yeah, give me the Celtics.
All right. 2 on the Celtics here, and I think that the most surprising thing that we've got today is I think you guys are on the same side of every game. I mean, that had 1,400 before we started.
Fade us today, chat. Fade us all.
Unbelievable that
Unreal.
you guys lined up here.
Are we in JSU like tag team in the chat? Is that what's going to go on? Like, we're going to kill him with Boston? Like that's the fight that people didn't expect to see today. Because again, I get it. Boston, it's definitely an uncomfortable bet, but listen, I hate Portland. I mean, there's definitely bias.
Portland is just as uncomfortable. Like, that's more uncomfortable in my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, and I was surprised. Fred, did you say they're 36-26 against the spread? Portland.
Portland.
Yeah,
they are 26-26 against the spread.
So yeah.
Even. So yeah, if you bet every game on them so far, you're down a bunch of juice.
Yeah, and my guess the reason why too is like I think the reason why it's like even at that point at 26-26 is because you got Damian Lillard just in that takeover mode for like that like 2-3 week period, and like that's because he had to, and like it's just the usage was going to the better guy, and like he's not getting the usage you want, like it's just not it. So and Boston, they're playing a lot better. They look right. Like I want to be on them right now in this spot against Portland. I don't want to bet on Boston against like some of these better teams in the league, but against some of these mid-tier teams, I'll go with Boston here.
All right. So the biggest surprise of the day is that you guys are on the same side of almost every game. So let's jump into the best bets and see what we're going to give to the people today. JSU, I'll start with you. What is your best bet of the day? Side, total, or prop?
I mean, I can't believe I'm saying this team, but the Lakers -1. Give me the Lakers here. That's how bad I think Charlotte is. Give me the Lakers -1.
Lakers a -1 for JSU. Travis, what do you got for us?
Yeah, I like the call, JSU. I'm happy you didn't take mine because I love the Clippers here. I mean, Clippers, I got them at -2. If you're a bet subscriber, you could have got them at -2. I believe there's -3 on some books, -3.5, but I'm in on the Clippers. Definitely think I want to bet them. I think you can outline them a little bit if you want. So I would go probably up to -6, I would say, on the Clippers. That'll be where I would say if you want to really get frisky and get some extra juice, go for it. But I like the Clippers here. I got them at -2. I'm happy about that. I'll take them at -3 also here. Don't want to bet against them. And I don't mind the over in that game a little bit just because I don't think the Pacers defensively are that great, and they're playing at a faster pace. So I think that's something that hasn't been caught on completely. I think you could see this total move up a couple points throughout the day. So my favorite bet though is the Clippers -3.
All right, guys, and all I need to do to get my best bet of the day is look out the window. I live in California. It's a sunny day. Give me the Phoenix Suns again. They didn't get it done for me yesterday, but I'm all over them here. I love this matchup against Miami, and I love fading Miami on the road. Everything just seems to be coming together for me. I'm glad that you guys left that for me. I was actually looking through. I thought one of you guys was going to grab that one up before I get it. So thank you very much for leaving my favorite play to be my best bet. Boy, we went through a lot today. I mean, I know we've got a lot, but just real quick, can I get your guys' thoughts on Jamal Murray, and then we'll get out of here. I thought it was really disappointing, and I think that now, unfortunately, I think the Nuggets are pretty much out of the championship race. Would you guys agree, or am I being too negative?
I didn't see the injury. I heard about it. I missed it. It was bad though, right? Like I don't know.
Torn ACL. He's out for the year.
He's out for the year for sure.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, geez, I didn't know it was that. So I didn't read that they gave the diagnosis already. So
yeah, that was this morning.
Oh man, that's unfortunate. Yeah, I mean, if you have a Nuggets ticket, right? Like pour one out for Big T. Big T, cash that out now. You made fun of my LeBron MVP bets that I had, from the injury. So now I get to make fun of you for having the Nuggets ones and your injury. So
well, Jokic could still easily win MVP.
No, he would have cashed that, right? Sure. But he was making fun of me because I bet LeBron, right? To remember, so you were. So I bet LeBron to win the title because I felt like the narrative was on his side and everything, and there was all these beat writers. They play a big part in this, and it felt like they were like going to lean towards that. And I got on it a little earlier. And then Big T was said he was, because he got hurt at the weekend I was with Big T, right? LeBron. Yeah. And he was making fun. He's like, you were making fun of my Jokic thing. I'm like, Big T, like LeBron literally just hurt himself. Like let me live for a second, man. Like it's an injury. So now I'm not going to let him live and make fun of him with the Nuggets and talk about how his team is dead. So there we go.
Well, and if it speaks anything to how this season is just rushed, right? It's basically to make sure they don't lose all their money for the salary cap. but they're playing way too much. You look at the top 5 in the MVP race, and Jokic is going to win just because he played the most games, right? Because
Yeah.
LeBron, injury, Embiid, injury, Giannis missed some games, injury, and who was the other one? Maybe Harden could have had a shot. But
That's another reason I bet on LeBron. I was like, this dude won't get hurt, right? Like he never does. Like that was like I thought I had that also go playing in my favor. Like I thought I had a lot. Like guys could just go down. I did love the Jokic bet. I kind of missed out on like the really good numbers. So I felt like I had
20-1. They had 21 before the season. So
that it was a great call for sure.
So
I think when
what
a
do you
lot
think the ceiling is now for the Nuggets?
I mean, they could still finish decently high in the Western Conference for the regular season, but I don't know if they can get to the Western Conference Finals now.
They lose to like
the ceiling.
They lose to like the Jazz and the Suns now, right? Like I think they had a chance to beat them, and they could have even been favorites in some of those spots, right? They could have been, but like even a team like the Suns, like I was a little nervous about the Suns in the playoffs, like. Are they just kind of being regular season tryhards and getting it done? I do think they're a good team, but that's something that's been in the back of my mind a little bit. But now, if you told me Nuggets for Suns, I would be taking the Suns like each time, just because that loss is going to be really, really big. Jokic would have to do a ton to kind of get that job done for that team, and really have to carry them, kind of like Nowitzki carried the Mavericks back in the day. So Jokic would really have to play lights out.
It's funny the difference between DFS and betting, because from a bet side, you're like, yeah, pour one out for your Nuggets tickets. They're not going there. Maybe next year. From a DFS side, you're like, man, that sucks for Murray. Like it's you never want to see a guy go down. But then you're like, okay, next guy up, like MPJ, the dude is going to start, like he's been crushing, but like now Murray's been out, right? Murray's been out a few games and he's been doing really well. Like they're just going to need him to keep that up. So I think like from that standpoint, you look at it in the DFS side and you're like, man, MPJ is going to be a really good play for a lot of these slates going forward.
Yeah, I really am expecting though that we will have a couple more like big injuries before this Western Conference Finals is all said and done. It might be a war of attrition, kind of like the NFL. More than just who's better at basketball. So
I think when LeBron went down, I think a lot of players were kind of shocked by that.
I was too. He's like a cyborg. He barely misses even time. Like when he shut down with the quad injury, it seemed more like he decided to. Like if they were in the playoffs that year, I think he would have kept playing. So that shocked me. I mean, I almost thought the guy was like a cyborg or something. But cool. We've given everyone plenty of content today. My poor buddies at UPS who listen to this at the lunch break won't be able to get the whole thing in. But I appreciate you guys and all the in-depth breakdowns. JS, you got anything else before we get out of here?
I'll be, check us out. We got a live show for MLB for DFS at 3:45 today Eastern time, and then the Hardwood show at 5:15 with those guys. And then me and Holden will bring you up to lock if you're a premium subscriber on the Run Pure Sports side. So make sure if you're not a subscriber, get in, sign up for both the bets and the DFS side, and come hang out with us.
Yeah, hit that like, hit that subscribe on the video. That helps us out. And also, don't forget PGA Live Show tonight on the YouTube channel as well. It's a free show every Tuesday. Strokes Gain Show with AP, Hoop, and Uncle T or Snyder. Always a mix of guys filling in there. But yeah, it's a good time, and the golf winners have been decent. So got to keep them rolling, right? Big T won a milli, not this past week, right? A couple weeks ago, but the content's been great. The Showdown stuff's been good. So don't miss out on that. If you like the PGA stuff, we got content for you all 4 days, even 5 days. It feels like, or 6 days, because we got content coming out on Tuesday, Wednesday, and then we got content, all the other days. So
we're pretty close to ESPN levels of just having 24 hours of content between both YouTube channels, right? I mean, we got the live show with Jay. I mean, he gave out the winners last night. Big T was on there, obviously. With the Wizards money line, and he'll be back this weekend. So plenty of content over at runpuresports.com. Head on over there. Use the promo code GETBETS. You'll get the bet side. You'll get access to my plays, Tyler's plays, Score with D's plays, HTP's plays, JJ's plays, who am I forgetting? Joey Works Plays, and of course the Sports Keg CEO. So head on over to runpurebets.com. Promo code GetBets will get you both for the first month. We appreciate it. Like Travis says, please like the video, subscribe to the channel. Be back tomorrow. It'll be just JSU, but that'll probably be a good thing because it might go 3 hours if it was both of us again with the 11-game slate. So we appreciate you guys all hanging out, and we'll be back tomorrow. Thank you for joining us, and run pure.